Do not lose. To temptation, there is a moment before you lose. Not the moment you open the app. Not the moment you take the first bite. Not the moment you say the thing you promised yourself you would not say. Not the moment you walk away from the work. The real moment comes earlier. It is quiet. It is small. It is almost invisible. It is the moment your mind starts negotiating with your weakness. Just for a minute. Just one more time. I deserve a break. I will start after this. I will do it tomorrow. No one will know. And that is where the battle begins. Not in the world. Not in your schedule. Not in your phone. Not in your room. In your mind. Because temptation does not kick the door down. It knocks politely. It uses your own voice. It sounds reasonable. It sounds harmless. It sounds like rest. It sounds like comfort. It sounds like you. But it is not there to help you. It is there to take command. And if you let it command you once, it will ask again. If you let it win tonight, it will return tomorrow with more confidence. If you keep surrendering to the same impulse, eventually the impulse stops feeling like a visitor and starts feeling like your identity. That is how people lose themselves, not all at once, not dramatically, not in one big failure. They lose themselves in tiny agreements, tiny excuses, tiny delays, tiny decisions that look harmless, until one day they wake up and realize their life has been quietly shaped by everything they refuse to control. So listen carefully. This video is not about becoming perfect. It is not about never feeling temptation. It is not about pretending you are made of stone. It is about learning what to do in the first few minutes when the urge arrives. Because the first few minutes decide everything. When the temptation first hits, it feels massive. It feels stronger than you. It feels like the whole body is leaning in one direction. But that feeling is not forever. Most urges come like a wave. They rise, they peak, then they fall. The problem is, most people obey the wave before it passes. They think the urge is a command. It is not. It is just noise. It is a signal. It is a test of who is in charge. So when temptation hits, your first job is simple. Stop moving. Do not negotiate. Do not explain. Do not debate. Do not open the door a little. Stop. Let your body be still before your weakness turns stillness into surrender. Because movement matters. If you reach for the phone, the battle changes. If you walk toward the fridge, the battle changes. If you open the tab, the battle changes. If you lie down when you should be working, the battle changes. So stop your body first. The mind is loud, but the body is trainable. Tell the body no. Stand up. Step away. Put your hands down. Close the screen. Turn your face from the thing that is pulling you. Do one physical act that proves you are still in command. That is where discipline begins. Not in motivation, not in emotion, not in a perfect morning routine. In one ugly moment where you feel the pull and still choose to act like the person you said you wanted to become. The old version of you wants you to think the decision is complicated. It is not. If it makes you weaker later, it is not worth obeying now. If it steals your peace, it is not pleasure. If it costs your self-respect, it is not comfort. If you have to hide it from the person you are trying to become, it is not harmless. You already know. That is the part nobody wants to admit. Most of the time, you do not need more advice. You need obedience to the truth you already have. You know when you are procrastinating. You know when you are avoiding the real work. You know when you are cleaning the room just to escape the task that actually matters. You know when you are organizing files so you do not have to face the blank page. You know when you are researching instead of starting. You know when you are preparing instead of committing. You know when the thing you call a break is actually a betrayal, and the mind will try to justify it. It will say, "At least I am doing something productive. At least the room is cleaner. At least I am thinking about it. At least I am not doing something worse." But discipline is honest. Discipline does not ask, "Is this activity good?" Discipline asks, "Is this the thing I promised myself I would do?" If the answer is no, then stop hiding behind almost right actions. Do the right one. Do it badly if you have to. Do it tired. Do it slowly. Do it with no confidence. Do it with the mood you have. But do it. Because every time you choose a substitute task instead of the real task, you teach your mind that discomfort can be avoided with a costume. And that is dangerous. Procrastination does not always look lazy. Sometimes it looks busy. Sometimes it looks useful. Sometimes it looks clean, organized, planned, researched, prepared, and professional. But if it is not moving the mission forward, it is still escape. You must learn to recognize escape even when it is wearing a respectable suit. That is how you take your power back. You stop asking, "Do I feel like doing it?" You ask, "What did I decide when I was clear?" Because the version of you that made the plan was sober. The version of you being tempted is emotional. Do not let the emotional version rewrite the sober version's decision. That is how people break promises to themselves. They make decisions in clarity and cancel them in discomfort. They dream in the daylight and surrender at night. They declare a new life when they are inspired, then obey the old life when the first urge arrives. No more. If you said you would work, work. If you said you would stop, stop. If you said you would train, train. If you said you would sleep early, put the phone away and let the night end. If you said you would become better, then stop voting for the old version of yourself. Every action is a vote. Every refusal is a vote. Every time you turn away from the urge, you vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you give in, you vote for the person you said you were leaving behind. Do not be surprised by the life you voted for. Your future is being counted. Quietly, daily, privately. And the scary thing is, nobody has to know for it to matter. You know. Your nervous system knows. Your confidence knows. Your self-respect knows. That is why private failure feels heavy. Not because anyone caught you, because you caught yourself. And when you keep catching yourself betraying your own standards, your words lose weight. You stop believing yourself. You say tomorrow, and some part of you does not believe it. You say, "I am changing," and some part of you laughs. You say, "This is the last time," and some part of you remembers all the other last times. That is the real cost of temptation. Not just time, not just energy. Trust. You lose trust with yourself. And a person who cannot trust himself becomes weak before the battle even begins. But the good news is this: self-trust can be rebuilt the same way it was destroyed, one decision at a time, one kept promise at a time, one uncomfortable no at a time, one small act of discipline when nobody is watching. You do not need to change your whole life tonight. You need to win the next minute, then the next one, then the next one. That is how self-control is built, not by giant emotional speeches, by tiny commands obeyed under pressure. When the urge comes, do not say, "I will never do this again." That is too big. Say, "I will not do it for the next 10 minutes. I will stand here. I will breathe. I will walk outside. I will drink water. I will open the work. I will do the first line. I will start the first rep. I will put the phone in another room. I will break the pattern before the pattern breaks me. 10 minutes can save your life. Not because 10 minutes is magical, because most temptations feed on momentum. Interrupt the momentum, and the urge loses shape. The mind changes state. The body cools down. The old story loses volume. And suddenly, the thing that felt impossible becomes manageable. You do not defeat temptation by staring at it. You defeat it by changing position. Change the room. Change your posture. Change the object in your hand. Change the first action. If the phone is the doorway, move the phone. If the bed is the trap, leave the bed. If the kitchen is the battlefield, leave the kitchen. If silence makes the urge louder, walk. If noise makes you scattered, sit still. Do not make discipline harder than it needs to be. A disciplined person is not someone who relies on willpower forever. A disciplined person builds a life where weakness has fewer entrances. You can't keep putting yourself in the same trap and calling the fall a mystery. You know the pattern. You know the time of day. You know the emotion. You know the excuse. You know the trigger. You know the door. So close the door before the storm arrives. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. If you know you lose focus with your phone beside you, your phone does not belong beside you. If you know you waste the night after one video is not the real problem. The open door is the problem. If you know one small indulgence becomes a spiral, stop lying to yourself about moderation. Some things are not your reward. They are your leash. And a serious life requires serious boundaries. Not because you hate pleasure, because you love your future more. That is the difference. Immature people think discipline is punishment. They think saying no means they are missing out. But a disciplined person understands the deeper truth. Every no protects a bigger yes. No to the urge. Yes to peace. No to the distraction. Yes to focus. No to the shortcut. Yes to strength. No to the old pattern. Yes to the life that has been waiting for you to become ready. You are not just avoiding temptation. You are protecting something. Your focus, your confidence, your health, your sleep, your work, your relationship, your money, your mind, your future, your name, your word, your becoming. When you see it that way, the battle changes. The urge no longer looks like pleasure. It looks like a thief at the gate. And you do not negotiate with a thief. You close the gate. You stand guard. You remember what is inside. Because there is something inside you worth protecting. There is a version of you that is trying to rise. That version is not loud yet. It is not fully built yet. It does not have proof yet. It cannot show you all the results yet. But it is there. And every time you resist what weakens you, that version gets stronger. Every time you do the work, instead of escaping it, that version becomes more real. Every time you stop yourself in the first few minutes, you teach your mind a new law. I am not a slave to the first feeling. I am not owned by the first urge. I am not led by every emotion that knocks on my door. I choose. That is power. Not controlling the world, controlling the next decision. Not forcing life to be easy, refusing to be easy to defeat. A lot of people want a better life, but they still obey the same temptations that created the life they are trying to escape. They want a new body, but obey the old appetite. They want a new business, but obey the old distraction. They want a new level, but obey the old comfort. They want peace, but keep feeding chaos. They want confidence, but keep breaking private promises. You cannot build a new life with old obedience. At some point, you have to stop feeding what is killing your future. At some point, you have to look at the temptation and say, I know what you are. You are not relief. You are not freedom. You are not my personality. You are not my reward. You are the chain I keep polishing. And tonight, I stop. Not because it is easy, because I am done being led by what weakens me. This is where commitment becomes real. Commitment is not the feeling you had when you made the promise. Commitment is what remains when the feeling is gone. Commitment is what stands up when the mood is gone. Commitment is what opens the laptop when confidence is gone. Commitment is what puts the phone down when the urge is loud. Commitment is what says, I do not need to feel strong to act strong. This is what separates people. Not talent, not perfect circumstances, not some secret personality trait. The difference is what they do when the first wave of temptation hits. One person obeys the wave. Another person waits it out. One person says, I cannot help it. Another person says, I can hold this for 10 minutes. One person becomes the urge. Another person watches the urge leave. That is the whole game. The feeling will pass. The regret may not. Remember that. The craving will pass. The damage may stay. The excuse will pass. The consequence may stay. The comfort will pass. The weakness you trained may stay. So choose the pain that pays you back. There are two kinds of pain in this life. The pain of resisting now and the pain of regretting later. The pain of focus now and the pain of wasted years later. The pain of discipline now and the pain of looking in the mirror later, knowing you kept choosing the thing that kept you small. Both are painful. Only one gives you a future. You are not trying to avoid pain. You are choosing the pain that builds you. That is maturity. That is discipline. That is self-respect. And understand this. Temptation becomes strongest when you are tired, when you are lonely, when you are frustrated, when you feel unseen, when the work has not paid off yet, when nobody is clapping, when the results are slow, when the room is quiet, when the night is heavy. That is when the old version of you starts making offers. Come back, rest here, escape here, feel better here. You have done enough. You can restart tomorrow. And in that moment, you must become very calm. Do not hate yourself for feeling the pull. Do not panic. Do not make the urge dramatic. Just recognize it. This is the old pattern asking for another term in office. This is the old self trying to be elected again. And then you vote differently. You do not have to shout. You do not have to post about it. You do not have to announce your transformation. You simply refuse. Quietly, clearly, immediately. That is how the old self dies. Not through one grand ceremony. Through starvation. You stop feeding it. You stop entertaining it. You stop explaining why it still deserves a place in your life. You stop making exceptions for the thing that keeps dragging you backwards. At first, it will fight. Of course it will. Old habits do not leave quietly. They beg. They bargain. They threaten. They promise one last time. They remind you of how good it used to feel. They tell you discipline is too much. They tell you this is who you are. But they are lying. A habit is not your identity. A craving is not your destiny. A pattern is not a prison unless you keep obeying it. You can interrupt it. You can outlast it. You can build something stronger. But you must stop worshiping the feeling of the moment. Feelings are real, but they are not always wise. A feeling can be loud and still be wrong. A desire can be intense and still be dangerous. An impulse can feel urgent and still be empty. So do not ask every feeling for permission. Lead it. Tell your feelings where you are going. Tell your body what the standard is. Tell your mind what the mission is. Because if you do not lead yourself, everything else will volunteer. Your phone will lead you. Your cravings will lead you. Your anger will lead you. Your loneliness will lead you. Your boredom will lead you. Your fear will lead you. And then one day you will look at your life and wonder why it doesn't look like yours. It is because you gave the steering wheel to whatever shouted the loudest. Take it back. Tonight, not tomorrow. Not when life becomes perfect. Not when the motivation returns. Tonight, take back the steering wheel in one small decision. Open the work. Move the phone. Turn off the screen. Step away. Say nothing. Walk. Pray if you pray. Breathe if you cannot think. Write down the thing you are avoiding. Do the first 2 minutes. Not because 2 minutes is enough to change your life, because 2 minutes is enough to break the trance. And once the trance is broken, you are back in the room. You can choose again. That is all discipline is. Returning to choice. Temptation wants you unconscious. Discipline wakes you up. It says, look at what you are doing. Look at where this leads. Look at what this costs. Look at who you become if you repeat it. And look at who you become if you resist. Most people only think about the pleasure of giving in. They do not think about the identity that gets stronger afterward. They do not think about the next day, the next week, the next year. They do not think about the version of themselves they are training. But you must think long. You must think beyond the urge. You must ask, if I obey this every time it calls, where will I be 6 months from now? And if I resist it every time it calls, where will I be 6 months from now? That question makes the choice clear, because the future is not built by the choices that feel big. It is built by the choices that repeat. What you repeat, you become. Repeat escape, become avoidant. Repeat discipline, become strong. Repeat delay, become stuck. Repeat action, become dangerous. Repeat excuses, become fragile. Repeat honesty, I'll become free. The next version of you is not waiting for a miracle. It is waiting for repetition. Not perfect repetition, just honest repetition. Fall, return. Drift, return. Get tired, return. Lose focus, return. But do not disappear from your own life. Do not let one bad moment become a bad week. Do not let one slip become a full surrender. Do not let shame become another temptation. Because shame is clever. After you fall, shame says, you already ruined it. You might as well keep going. You might as well quit. You might as well prove you cannot change. Do not listen. That is the second trap. The first trap is temptation. The second trap is shame after temptation. A disciplined person does not pretend he never falls. He learns to return fast. Fast recovery is power. If you fall, stand up immediately. Do not build a home in the fall. Do not turn one mistake into a personality. Do not insult yourself into another failure. Look at it clearly. Take responsibility. Remove the trigger. Return to the standard. That is how serious people live. They do not need perfect streaks to respect themselves. They need honest returns. You are not weak because you feel temptation. You are not finished because you slipped. You are in training. And training means resistance. Training means repetition. Training means some days expose you. Good. Let them expose you. Let the weak spots become visible. Now you know where to build. If the night exposes your lack of boundaries, build boundaries. If boredom exposes your need for stimulation, train stillness. If anger exposes your lack of control, train silence. If procrastination exposes fear, start small and start anyway. If lust exposes loneliness, do not feed the loneliness with poison. If distraction exposes lack of purpose, write the mission down and read it until it becomes heavier than the urge. Every temptation carries information. It shows you where you are still being led. Do not waste that information. Study yourself, not with hatred, with precision. Learn your patterns like a strategist. When do you fall? Where do you fall? What are you feeling before it happens? What excuse do you use? What story do you tell yourself? What environment makes it easy? What boundary would make it harder? This is how you become difficult to defeat. You stop being surprised by the same attack. You prepare. If you always fall at night, protect the night. If you always fall when tired, create a shutdown ritual. If you always fall with the phone in your hand, charge it somewhere else. If you always fall after stress, build a healthier release before stress chooses for you. If you always avoid the work when it feels too big, shrink the first step until there is no excuse left. Discipline is not only willpower. Discipline is design. Design your life so the right action becomes easier and the wrong action becomes harder. That is not cheating. That is intelligence. A man does not prove strength by standing in front of the same fire every night. He proves strength by refusing to keep pouring fuel on it. Remove the fuel. Remove the access. Remove the lie that you can play with the thing that keeps defeating you. You are not missing out by protecting yourself. You are growing up. And there is a quiet confidence that appears when you start winning the private battles. You walk differently, not because you think you are better than people, because you are no longer secretly at war with your own word. You become calmer, cleaner, sharper. You do not need to tell everyone. They can feel it. There is weight in a person who governs himself. There is peace in a person who is not constantly being dragged by impulse. There is power in a person who can be tempted and still remain loyal to the mission. That kind of power cannot be faked. It is earned in the first 5 minutes when nobody sees, earned at night, earned in silence, earned when the old pattern knocks and you do not answer, earned when you do the work without applause, earned when you refuse the thing that would make you feel good now and a week later. That is the real flex, not showing the world how strong you look, showing yourself that your word still means something. There will come a time when the temptation that used to control you will still appear, but it will not look the same. It will look smaller, not because it became smaller, because you became larger. Your standard grew. Your self-respect grew. Your tolerance for self-betrayal disappeared. You will look at the old trap and feel almost shocked that it used to own you. And that day will feel quiet. No fireworks, no crowd, just a simple inner knowing. I am not that person anymore. That is the reward, not just the result. The freedom, the space in your mind, the peace in your body, the trust in your own word, the ability to sit with discomfort without obeying it, the ability to want something and still say no, the ability to feel tired and still show up, the ability to be afraid and still move, the ability to be tempted and still remain yours. That is what you were building. Not a perfect life, a governed life. A life where your mind is not open territory for every urge to invade. A life where your attention is protected. A life where your actions line up with your future. A life where the old version of you no longer gets to make decisions from the back seat. This is your reminder. You do not control every outcome. You do not control every person. You do not control every delay. You do not control how fast the results arrive. But you control the next refusal. You control the next start. You control whether your hand reaches for the phone or the work. You control whether you stay in the argument or choose silence. You control whether you feed the craving or outlast it. You control whether you clean the room to avoid the mission or sit down and do the hard thing. That is enough. Do not underestimate control over the next moment. The next moment is where life is made, not the fantasy, not the plan, not the dream. The next moment. And the next moment is asking you a question. Who leads here? The urge or you? The excuse or you? The comfort or you? The old self or you? Answer with action, not emotion, not noise, not another promise. Action, close the door, start the work, take the walk, put it away, tell the truth, return to the standard, and when the urge comes back, answer again, and again, and again. That is how you become the kind of person temptation cannot easily move. Not because you never feel it, because you have trained yourself not to bow. The first few minutes are the gate. Guard the gate. The first excuse is the crack. Seal the crack. The first substitute task is the disguise. Expose the disguise. The first small win is the beginning. Take the win. You are closer to control than you think. Not because the battle is easy, because the decision is simple. Do not feed what you are trying to escape. Do not entertain what you already know will cost you. Do not call it comfort when it keeps making you wake. Do not clean the room when the mission is waiting. Do not scroll for peace. Do not bargain with the old self. Do not wait for the feeling to change before your behavior does. Change the behavior. The feeling will follow. That is discipline. That is commitment. That is how you stop losing to temptation. And one day, after enough private wins, you will realize something. The same mind that used to betray you now protects you. The same body that used to chase comfort now follows command. The same night that used to swallow your focus now becomes the place where you rebuild. The same temptation that used to expose your weakness now proves your strength. That is when you know you are changing. Not when life gets easier. When you get harder to pull off course. Not when urges disappear. When they no longer decide for you. Not when the old self dies loudly. When he stops getting fed. So tonight, when the temptation comes, do not panic. Do not perform. Do not give a speech. Stop. Breathe. Step away. Choose the smallest correct action. Hold the line for 10 minutes, then hold it again. The life you want is not built by one heroic decision. It is built by the quiet refusal to betray yourself when betrayal would be easy. And if you can win there, in the unseen moment, in the first few minutes, in the private war, then you can win anywhere. Because the person who can control himself does not need the world to be perfect. He carries his standard with him. He carries his discipline into the dark. He carries his future through the temptation, and he does not let go. So keep your hands steady. Keep your mind guarded. Keep your promise alive. Do the work. Cut the temptation. Break the pattern. Protect the mission. The old version of you can knock, but you do not have to open the door. Not tonight.